What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. Before I get into the video, just a heads up that Blueprint is going to be closing in about 5 days. If you've been trading for a while and you feel like you know some basics, but you just kind of feel like you're lacking a few pieces to the puzzle and you want to fill it in, or if you just want to learn my full system that I've used to achieve a 75% win rate over the last year and a half, feel free to click the first link in the description box below, because the people who joined Blueprint already are already killing it. But with that out of the way, let's actually get into the video. Now, today, Bitcoin is looking way better compared to yesterday, and something I said yesterday just basically came true in terms of Bitcoin, and I'm going to break it all down, and potentially, very likely, we're going to have a trade for today. So yeah, I'm going to break all of this down in the video. Now, if we start things off on the weekly chart, we are still looking for that weekly bias. In fact, the weekly kind of target has already been hit because, well, technically, when you have a bullish weekly bias, you just tend to aim for the previous weekly high. So technically, you know, here comes another week where the power of 3 just came true once more, where we dipped below the weekly open and boom, head towards the upside. Now, is that relevant or even useful information for us? Absolutely not, because, well, we weren't able to get into a trade yesterday. The only reason that I'm bringing up the weekly chart is that this target right here has yet to be hit, and I said already earlier in the week that I do expect this to get taken sometime this week, which means we're still looking at a solid another $1,000 worth of movement at the very least, right? This is just kind of the first target. It's not like, oh, I expect price to hit this and just like completely dump towards the downside, right? That's not what I'm expecting at all. It's more of just like, okay, we can clearly see that price is expanding towards that area. And so, like, yeah, let's take advantage of it before price is actually getting there. Because one of the best things and one of the easiest things that we can do when it comes to trading is we simply wait for a trend to kind of confirm, which in today's case, we are very clearly in a bullish trend. And basically at that point, you're going to have a train that is already moving towards a destination, and at that point we just have to hop onto the train while it's already moving and then get off later down the line. This is known as momentum trading, and the way this looks like is to simply buy high and then sell higher. This is, contrary to popular belief, actually a really good strategy. In fact, in the last year and a half or so, where I've publicly documented all of the trades that I've been calling here on YouTube, some of the most successful and easiest trades that we have ever gotten are simply the ones where momentum has already kind of confirmed itself and we just kind of hop in. So nothing wrong with buy high, sell, or just good old simple trend trading. Now, with that out of the way though, the daily bias is also bullish from what I can see, which means that we're going to be looking for longs today. Now, the moment we go into the hourly time frame, we can also see that we are very clearly in bullish order flow because we have gotten 2 CISDs towards the upside. Speaking about the 1 hourly chart though, if you guys recall from yesterday, like yesterday we had a bearish daily bias and technically we were operating with a bearish CISD. And so we were actually, well, one of the things I said is that if we were to look for a trade yesterday, we would actually look for price to come into either one of these order blocks and get rejected and then dump from that point onwards. At least that was the trade for yesterday. But I also did say, like, one of the big reasons why I don't trade Mondays is because even if price action tends to align, you're just not going to get it, right? The probability of Mondays, especially on a non-news Monday, which, was the case yesterday, it's just like really low probability conditions. And case in point, I've publicly documented, about 220 of these trades so far already. Now, while I don't really lose that many trades, the majority of my losses actually tends to come on Mondays, especially without news, because price action is going to say, price action is going to paint a very beautiful picture. And then once we actually take it, it's like, oh, oops, psych. And this is just something that happens regularly on Monday. Hence why I just said, if yesterday's video was not enough reason yet to convince you not to trade Monday, then hopefully this is a very clear prime example of why, Monday is just like an extended holiday. Like Monday tends to just be like an extended kind of weekend, right? Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. But with that out of the way though, the hourly order flow right now is very clearly bullish. The daily bias is very clearly bullish. The weekly bias is very clearly bullish. And the 5-minute is also very clearly bullish. Today we don't have news, but at the very least, in terms of time frame alignment, we have everything set up for some sort of a nice, beautiful move. And I'm going to be looking at 2 levels when it comes to today. The first of which is going to be this fair value gap right here. Starting at 66,100, you're going to be looking for price to come into this and to hopefully find support at this level. Now, as of the time that I'm recording this, it is about 5:30 a.m. And because we don't have news today, we're actually looking to simply take a trade between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. New York today. So when we get into this level, ideally between 7 to 10, if you see some sort of 5-minute indication that we are going to the upside with a CISD, that is going to be the trade for today. Now, the fair value gap is just one level. There's another high probability level for today. That's going to come at 65,600. This entire block here is going to be a bullish order block, which means that when you come back into this level, this is going to act as really strong support. Now, just going back into the daily chart, again, the target for today is going to be at 67,200. We've already got gotten quite an aggressive move today, so I wouldn't necessarily expect 67,000 to get hit today. But in the event that we come back in for a retrace, like either here, like, you know, assuming we frame the trade something like this, then yeah, easily we could still get 2 to maybe even 3R. And in the event that we just literally use the 1 hourly fair value gap, which I don't recommend, by the way, like getting a 2R trade on this is very easy. And that's, by the way, if I never mention any targets, just automatically assume, like, and the OGs will kind of understand this, but if I don't mention any targets, just assume that the target's going to be anywhere between 2 to 3R, or just any sort of liquidity point that is relevant. The truth is, for a lot of traders, you don't really need more than 2R to make really good money. You only need a 34% win rate if you go for 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio to be profitable as a trader. Now, anything above that is going to be, you know, a cherry on top. And like, yeah, I've had so many students from Blueprint just get funded and just make full-time livings off of going for 2R. Case in point, I posted a couple of interviews in the last couple of days where, you know, in both cases, these were people working, you know, full-time jobs, 40 to 60 hours a week, and they are making more than a full-time income from trading, which, by the way, if you like to learn the system for yourself and to be able to, you know, make a full-time living as well, trading, or even half of your salary from trading consistently with under an hour to 2 hours a day, then feel free to click the first link in the description box below. But anyways, with that out of the way though, the one thing I will have to mention is that the 1 hourly PD arrays that I've already marked out here, which is the fair value gap here and the order block here, are just points of interest, which means that we are not necessarily looking to just place a limit here, place a stop loss, and then, you know, just go from there. These are points of interest, which means we're waiting for price to get into these levels. And then on the 5-minute chart, what you want to see is some sort of a change in state of delivery, just to give you an idea about how this looks. For example, right, price eventually comes back into the order block, right? Clearly, price is bearish, and then eventually you get a change in state of delivery, right? You form a new potential order block, and this is going to be your entry. Once price breaks out, retraces back into the order block. Now, at this point, you can place a limit, set your stop loss beneath the order block, and target for 2R. It's as simple as that. Then that is what you are going to be looking for between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. today. And if I do take any trades, you know the drill. I'm going to be posting them on X, so feel free to follow me there. But with that out of the way, I'm going to see you guys later, as well as in tomorrow's video. Ciao, ciao.